NEOM's centerpiece was promised at 170 kilometers. By 2030, under 3. The investment program NEOM belongs to needs oil near $110 a barrel, sustained. Brent has touched that twice this decade. Runs Saudi Arabia's finances on the government's own budget, and the risk of running out of room by 2040 is 4%. Add the building program, and the same model says 73. Same country, same oil. The distance between 4 and 73 is the cost of what Saudi Arabia has promised to build. And the most exposed promise is not the most expensive one. It is the one nobody outside Saudi Arabia can force Riyadh to finish. That distinction decides which project shrinks first. NEOM itself was announced in 2017 as a $500 billion region on the Red Sea, roughly the size of Belgium. The line was unveiled in January 2021. A mirrored city 500 meters tall, stretching 170 kilometers, built for 9 million people. By April 2024, Bloomberg reported the plan for 2030 had fallen from 1.5 million residents to under 300,000, and from 170 kilometers to roughly 2.5. Nadmi Al-Nasser, who had run NEOM for 6 years, left in November 2024. The shrinking is not a forecast. It started. Tens of thousands of workers have been on those sites. Stretching a project out instead of canceling it still looks like layoffs from the ground. Vision 2030 launched in April 2016 with oil in the mid-40s. It was an escape from oil, priced as though oil would cooperate. Economists measure Saudi Arabia's break-even 2 ways. The ordinary state budget balances with oil in the low 80s. The full investment program needs something closer to 110. That gap of nearly $30 a barrel is not an accounting detail. It is the dream converted into oil. $80 oil funds the country. It does not fund the country plus the dream. Brent has closed above $110 in only 2 years this decade, and never for long. The program has been underwater in budget terms almost since it was announced. The strain is already visible. In the first quarter of 2026, Saudi Arabia used about 3/4 of the deficit it had planned for the entire year. Running out of room does not mean bankruptcy. It means the savings that let a government absorb a bad year are gone. The obvious objection is the Sovereign Wealth Fund, roughly $900 billion sitting right there. Because most of it is not cash. It is Aramco shares, domestic stakes, and the projects themselves, none of which sell quickly without a loss. Selling a stake in Aramco to pay for a city built to replace Aramco is not a plan anyone wants to explain. And the fund is topped up by government transfers and Aramco dividends. Both shrink when oil falls. The vehicle built to end Saudi dependence on oil is itself paid for in oil. Not every project can slip. Riyadh hosts the World Expo in 2030. Saudi Arabia hosts the World Cup in 2034. Trojena hosts the Asian Winter Games in 2029. Each of those has a counterparty, an outside body that can sue or publicly embarrass Saudi Arabia for missing the date. FIFA can. The Olympic Council of Asia can. The line has no counterparty. No federation or broadcaster outside Saudi Arabia holds a contract saying it must be finished. Nobody can be embarrassed except Riyadh itself. So when money gets tight, the stadiums get built and the mirrored city gets redrawn. Quietly, in stages, by people who never once used the word canceled. That is why the first phase keeps getting narrower while the announcements stay the same size. Nothing is admitted. The drawings simply change. The model behind all this sorts 20,000 possible futures into 4 worlds. The full building program is affordable in exactly one of them, and that world comes up 22% of the time. 4 worlds, and the plan only works in the least likely version of the future the model produces. That world is the one where the energy transition stalls and oil demand keeps climbing. Riyadh is long the very thing it is spending this money to stop needing, which does not make the odds of a cut 78%. Those simulations run to 2040. The registered forecast asks something narrower: whether announced commitments fall by more than a quarter before 2030. Borrowing and delay can bridge a lot of strain without ever crossing that line. On that narrower question, the number is 55%. And that 55 is not a simulation output. It is a registered judgment informed by the model, written down with a resolution date so it can be scored later. Which brings back the opening number. 170 kilometers became under 3, and nobody had to announce a cancellation. That is what the forecast expects more of. The strongest objection is debt. Saudi borrowing is low by rich world standards, near 30% of output, and the kingdom issues bonds cheaply. That is true, and it moves the date rather than the arithmetic. Debt turns a spending problem into an interest problem, which is a better problem, and still a problem priced in barrels. The model ignores borrowing entirely, which is why the 73% is best read as a ceiling rather than a point estimate. The practical consequence is that NEOM's future is not being decided by architects or engineers. It is being decided quarter by quarter in a budget office in Riyadh. So how would you know the cuts had started before Riyadh said so? 2 numbers move first: how much money the government transfers into the wealth fund each year, and whether contractors start reporting late payments, which is always the first visible sign of a slowdown. If 2 of the model's 4 indicators worsen for 3 quarters running, treat it as evidence that a broader slowdown may already be underway. Next door, the same model never runs the UAE out of room. Its break-even is near $55, and it promised less. None of this says NEOM disappears. It says the version sold in 2021, the one with 9 million residents, was priced for an oil market that has not shown up. The signpost is the 2027 budget. Watch whether transfers to the wealth fund are restated as multi-year commitments rather than annual ones. Doing it early is a policy. Doing it late is a headline. The 55% is not a prediction that Saudi Arabia fails. It is a prediction that Saudi Arabia does the arithmetic first. Every country builds monuments it cannot quite afford. The unusual thing about this one is that the invoice arrives on a schedule you can read in a barrel price.